Well, I'm not party to what the feeling is inside the family, obviously, but I think there will be a feeling of some relief at the palace that they have made this very decisive action. I mean, it is extraordinary. I've been reporting, as you say, for a very long time on the royal family, more than 3 decades, and this is a crisis beyond anything that I've reported on before, including Diana's death. And this is the most ruthless and decisive action I've ever seen a member of the royal family take. King Charles is not a ruthless man, but this, you have to say, is ruthless action. To take the title of prince away from his brother, and to demand that he leaves the royal lodge, which he had pretty secure tenancy on, has surprised me, I have to say. I came in this evening to this news, and I was gobsmacked. But I think that the clamour from the public, from the press, and from Parliament now, many members of Parliament saying something had to be done. The sanctions thus far were not sufficient. I think the King heard that, and I think also when he was out earlier this week and heard a member of the people who were around, the crowd around him, heckling him about what he knew about Andrew, that was really one step too far.
They were caught on camera on a visit to Lichfield, I think, from memory. Yes, one word leapt out at me from the statement was the word censure, which censure means to express severe disapproval of someone, especially in a formal statement. I mean, that really is, this is the very, very angry, cross and disappointed king.
Yes, and I think this all began totally unravelling when Andrew was exposed as a liar, when it became clear that he had lied about, on Newsnight, that infamous interview, about how long he had continued his relationship, his friendship with Andrew Epstein. And I think to have a senior member of the royal family, working or not, as a proven liar was just beyond the pale. And it's gotten worse from there. I think the palace hoped that taking the dukedom, or persuading Andrew to say he was relinquishing his dukedom, the palace probably hoped that might be sufficient, but it clearly was not. And they are listening to public opinion. And I think William here is a mover. I think behind the scenes he has been pressing for more action against his uncle. It was an untenable situation, I think.
Yes.
And I'm very pleased that the palace have acted and censured him so publicly.
And driven by journalism, driven by reporting in newspapers. It's quite interesting how that's led the way, and that's almost funneled the frustration and the fury amongst members of the public. We see how far down the charts of popularity Andrew is.
Yeah, you know, sometimes I dislike my own profession, and I think that we hunt like a pack of dogs and we bring our prey down, and sometimes it's quite unpleasant to witness. And I have to confess that over the weekend I did think, you know, is it more than, you know, one man can bear? Are we correct in this? But I think we have been. I think we have, the media, been reflecting public opinion and public absolute disapproval.
You are right to say that there was the flickerings of sympathy, and it's hard to say that really, but there were flickerings in some quarters because he can't answer back. So he's stuck with we're just getting pelted by columns and articles in the press.
Yes, but he could have answered back. He could have publicly said, look, I was on that island, I was at the mansions, I was on the plane with Epstein. This is what I know. I want to do what I can to help the women who have been abused by Epstein, who I knew longer than I said I'd known. He could have said that. So he wasn't without a voice, but he chose not to use his voice.
And indeed, the King and Queen said these censures are necessary really because he continues to deny the allegations against, or notwithstanding that fact, but it's linking the fact that he set his face against all the evidence that was piling up against him.
Oh, yeah, well, he is entitled to protest his innocence. And who knows, perhaps he is innocent, but he has not taken the opportunity to express the sympathy that he needed to for the women who have suffered so grievously at the hands of Epstein. And tonight, Virginia Giuffre's family have been saying that they regard this clearly as a victory for Virginia, who sadly took her own life, as people remember, back in April.
Man, when Jenny Bond, that old-school BBC royal hack who's been sniffing around the Windsors for over 30 years, drops a bomb like that, you know the crap has hit the fan in Buckingham Palace. And hit it has, hard. We're talking about King Charles finally growing a spine and yanking Prince Andrew's fancy titles right out from under him, along with kicking his sorry ass out of Royal Lodge, that sprawling Windsor pile he's been squatting in like some entitled squatter. This isn't just palace gossip. It's a full-blown takedown, and Bond's reaction on GB News nails it as the nastiest royal mess since Diana got chased into that Paris tunnel by paparazzi hounds. She called it ruthless, decisive, and yeah, she's gobsmacked, mouth hanging open in shock. But let's be real, this is long overdue, and if anything, it's not ruthless enough. Andrew's been a walking disaster for years, and the whole rotten royal machine has been propping him up like a bad puppet show. Bond didn't hold back on GB News. She's covered every scandal from Diana's tragic end to the endless tabloid fodder, but this tops it all. King Charles is not a ruthless man, she said, but this, you have to say, is ruthless action. She's right on that. Charles, the guy who spent his life playing eco-warrior and waiting in mommy's shadow, suddenly decides to strip his brother of the Prince label and boot him from a home with a pretty secure tenancy. Bond admitted she was floored when the news broke. I came in this evening to this news and I was gobsmacked. And why? Because the public's been screaming for it. The press, the politicians, even random hecklers yelling at Charles in the street about what he knew of Andrew's sleaze. That crowd jeer earlier this week, it was the tipping point, the moment the king realised his family's dirty laundry was stinking up the whole kingdom. But let's cut the crap. Andrew deserves every bit of this humiliation, and a hell of a lot more. This isn't some poor, misunderstood royal. This is a guy who cozied up to Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted paedophile kingpin, and then had the gall to lie through his teeth about it on national TV. Remember that car crash interview with Emily Maitlis? Andrew sat there, straight-faced, claiming he couldn't sweat because of some Falklands War trauma, and spinning yarns about a Pizza Express trip in Woking as his alibi. Who buys that garbage? He denied ever meeting Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's survivors who accused him of assault, but then quietly settled her lawsuit for millions that probably came from the family's coffers, which means our pockets. And don't get me started on the fishy stench around Epstein's suicide in that jail cell. The guy was about to spill secrets that could drag down half the elite world, including Andrew, and poof, he's gone. Cameras malfunctioning, guards asleep. Yeah, that screams cover up louder than a banshee. If Andrew's tangled in that web, and all signs point to yes, then being stripped of a title and a mansion is chump change. He should be rotting in a cell, not whining about losing his posh digs. The royals aren't innocent bystanders here either. Oh no, they're the enablers, the shield that kept Andrew safe for far too long. Charles might be playing the tough guy now, but where was he when the Epstein files first dropped? Or when Andrew was jetting around on Epstein's Lolita Express, rubbing shoulders with God knows who? The family circled the wagons, paid his legal bills, and let him hide behind palace walls. Bond hinted at a feeling of relief inside the palace now that it's done. But relief from what? From finally admitting their golden boy is a total creep. This isn't decisiveness. It's damage control after years of denial. Speaking of cash, that's the real kicker. Royal Lodge, that 30-room monster costs a fortune to maintain. Security, upkeep, the works. And guess who's footing the bill? You and me, the hard-working Brits who scrape by while these parasites live large. Andrew's been lounging there rent-free, even after stepping back from duties in 2019 amid the Epstein fallout. Millions down the drain for a guy accused of preying on vulnerable girls. It's disgusting. Bond touched on the public clamour, and she's spot on. The Brits are fed up. Protests, petitions, heckles. The cry is finally being heard. No more funding a pedophile's playground. But evicting one bad apple? Not enough. The whole tree's rotten. Time to chop it down, abolish the monarchy entirely. Why prop up this archaic farce in 2025? Charles talks climate change while flying private jets. Camilla sips tea in luxury while food banks overflow. And the next generation? William and Kate, playing perfect family while the institution crumbles. No, there's no lesser evil here. Andrew's the symptom. The royals are the disease. Bond's comparison to Diana's death hits hard because it's true. This crisis eclipses even that global heartbreak. Diana's end exposed the royals' cruelty, their media manipulations, and their heartless protocols. But Andrew's downfall, it peels back layers of moral decay that go deeper. He's not just a wayward son. He's the face of unchecked privilege abusing power. Bond's been there for it all, the weddings, the funerals, the scandals, and even she's calling this the biggest. This is a crisis beyond anything I've covered before, she emphasized, lumping it with Diana's tragedy but elevating it as worse. Why? Because it's not an accident. It's deliberate rot from within. Charles's ruthless move might seem bold, but it's a band-aid on a gaping wound. The palace feels relief. Please. They're terrified the floodgates are opening, that more victims, more secrets, more Epstein ties will spill out. Look, Andrew's reaction? Reports say he didn't even fight it much. Maybe he knows the jig is up. But that's no redemption. It's resignation from a coward who's dodged accountability too long. His accusers' families are cheering, and rightly so. Joffrey and others deserve justice, not settlements. As for the royals, this huge moment in world history isn't the end. It's the beginning of the end. Bond's gobsmacked, but the public, we're enraged. No more fairy tales. Tear down the thrones, expose the darkness, and let the people decide. Andrew's eviction is a start, but the monarchy's abolition is the finish line. Anything less is just more lies in fancy crowns.